of the And Whatnot podcast. Today we're going to talk about what's new with us, various other things, and then get right into our main movie of the week, which is 2017's Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, first anime movie.
Yes.
Is it our first animated one we've reviewed as well? No, we saw Moana and stuff. Okay.
Well, this one isn't animated, it's live action, so...
Oh, I've already forgotten. It already doesn't matter. So, as a note for our listeners that we actually have some now, we rotated our schedule a little bit. We took an extra week break than we usually do. We debated about going to see Beauty and the Beast, and just like life kind of got in the way and things were busy, and we're like, I'm not dying to see it. I've seen the animated one. I'm good, sort of. So we skipped it and decided to wait for Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
And then even this episode is a little delayed.
Yeah.
We tried to record it 2 days ago. However, Adam's computer the program happened to crash just about 5 minutes to the end.
Yep.
So this is fun. So if we don't sound quite as lively as before, it's because we've already had this conversation.
Yeah, luckily this is the first time that anything bad has actually happened during it. Like, this is the first, major technical difficulty. For whatever reason, the program that I used to record the audio decided after an hour and 5 minutes of recording to just crash. And the problem is, it doesn't save as it goes along, it saves at the end, when you end the call. And since the call didn't end, it didn't save. So, that was fun.
That was an adventure.
Yeah.
So what's been new with you?
Not a lot. Yesterday I rekindled my hatred for public transit. Yesterday I had to switch shifts with one of my coworkers, so I ended up taking the evening shift, and so that meant I had to take the bus into work. And so it started off poorly by me misreading what time the bus arrives. I thought it was 11:35. No, it's 11:25, so I missed my bus by 10 minutes.
Oh, no.
And so I had to stand outside till the next bus arrives. And it was rather cold and windy yesterday. And so the next bus is supposed to arrive at 11:55. Except the bus was 10 minutes late, so it arrived at 12:05. Now again, not a problem. It's fine. I didn't have to be in work until about 12:30 anyway. But by my bus being 10 minutes late means I get downtown 10 minutes late, meaning I miss my transfer, so I have to stand downtown in the cold for another half hour.
Oh.
Yeah. So I meant to get there about quarter after 12, 12:30. I got there about quarter after 1.
That's fun. Isn't that always an adventure? I am so glad I have a car. I don't have to worry about that ever again. I would always be at my stop 15 minutes early, because the one I would usually take went around the periphery of the city. It just kind of did a whole loop on the outside, and so it didn't have sort of it had obviously a regular schedule, but it didn't come as frequently as the buses that go sort of into the downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I can't miss it because the next one is half an hour, so I need to take it. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, well, I used to take the bus all the time to work because I was still doing the alternating shifts. But last year and all of this year, except for yesterday, I've been working straight days. So I've been getting a ride into work and then getting a ride back, back home in the evening. And so I haven't had to take the bus in a while. And, I've taken the bus since then, but it was if I'm going downtown to go to the bank or something, that it doesn't matter if I get there on time. I'm just going to deposit some checks or something. Mm-hmm. So this just annoyed me. Especially, the day after I was already angry because of the failed recording and stuff like that. So.
It just was not a great Friday.
No. And then our, debit and credit card machine were down at the office because Guelph Hydro had come to replace the meter, and when they, switched the power back on, it surged and killed our machine.
Oh, no.
So the machine was down from whatever time they finished, like 8:30 in the morning, till about 5 when the guy came to replace it. So
Oh, fantastic. And it's not like everybody pays with a credit card now these days.
well, luckily we still have that old like paper slip one that you like slide the thing across and goes like kerchunk, and
Oh, you
it,
take
like,
the imprint,
yeah,
yeah.
it imprints it. So I think we did about 5 of those, and so had to call into like our merchant services and be like, "Hi, we need to process these transactions, please." And so I was on the phone with them for like a half hour.
Yeah, that's an adventure. But I know I had to do a few of those when I still worked retail and stuff, and it's just not the same as just like swiping it and then it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not much new with me this week. I mean, the last couple times it's been really fortunate. I didn't have too much to talk about. So the dog got sprayed by a skunk, and then we saw a squirrel in the house, and luckily neither of those things have happened again. But I don't really have a fun anecdote about how how my life is right now. It's just been same old here.
Yeah. And also we're doing another in-person recording this week because you happen to be in town, so we thought we'd do it. So
Yeah, I love our in-person. It's actually like we're just in different places, but at the same house talking.
yeah. So this time you're actually sitting outside.
I know, I get a lovely view. I have like the dog here with me. Luckily she's being good, but if you hear any barking, that's her.
Yeah.
But no, so it's nice, and it's even just nice doing it air quotes in person. It gives it a different feel than other shows, I think.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have happened had our system not crashed earlier. So this is like bonus in-person episode.
Yeah.
Yes, the only thing I was excited for this last week was the new episode of Rick and Morty came out. Please tell me you've watched it.
I did not. I saw that it came out, but I didn't watch it.
What is wrong with you? I am appalled and horrified.
See, the thing is, I usually wait until a season's done, download it and watch it, or watch it on Netflix when it gets on there. I don't typically watch things episode by episode, so like
yeah, it's been a while since I've had a show like that. Most of my things that I've been watching lately that are sort of scripted TV shows, it's been a Netflix like a Netflix sort of special where they do all the episodes at once anyway. Or I just finished watching Westworld, which is also really good, but I happened to get it after, so I had all the episodes. But Rick and Morty is one of the ones that I was watching every single time it came out. The husband and I got into it in season 2, and just as sort of season 2 was ending, like I think there was maybe 3 episodes that we saw each week, and then the rest had already been released. And he was the one who got us into it. He was watching it, and I'm like, what kind of stupid thing is this? Just like walking by and not really paying attention. I'm like, what like gross cartoon are you watching now? Because like he likes Archer, and I really don't. I don't get it. And like there's a few other cartoon kind of shows he watches. I'm like, this is dumb. So I just thought it was another dumb cartoon show. But I finally watched an episode. I'm like, this is amazing, and had to watch them all.
Yeah, it was actually him that I watched it with first, because I was staying over at your house that one time when you were at that conference, and he was like, have you ever seen Rick and Morty? Because like he had just turned on Netflix, and it was like partway through an episode or something, or he just clicked on some random episode that he had downloaded. He's like, oh, have you ever seen this? I was like, no. So he's like, oh yeah, let's start at like the first episode. So we ended up watching like 6 episodes that night.
And that's the thing too, is they go by so fast. Since they're the half an hour, actually 22 minutes, because they're made to have commercials in them. You can binge watch a whole season in a day if you try hard enough. I mean, and they were always doing like reduced episode seasons, like it's 10 episodes, 10 to 12, I forget exactly.
Yeah.
I think the second season is a little bit longer than the first, but they did the shorter episodes. You can get through the whole thing in one day. And then you're like, oh, now what do I watch? But
yeah, see, that's the problem I have with Netflix, is that I'll sit down and watch something, I'll watch the entire season in a weekend, and then be like, oh, crap, gotta wait like a year for the next one to come out.
I know, and Rick and Morty was so bad for that. I mean, they even made the joke at the end of season 2 of like, oh, gotta wait for another Rick and Morty for another year and a half, and you're like, nah. And that's pretty much what it's been.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. They were at I don't think it was the actual San Diego Comic-Con, but they were at some sort of convention. And Justin Roiland, one of the creators, was like, "Okay, you're gonna have new episodes in 2016," and the whole crowd was like, "Whoa!" and like loses their mind. And he's like, "It's gonna be the end, guys, end! Like, calm down." And so we're all so excited. And 2016 came and went, and there was no Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
And it does seem to be in their fashion. Like, it was released on April Fool's Day. And I saw the thing in the morning on Facebook or whatever, like, "Oh, new Rick and Morty episode." I'm like, no, no, Rick and Morty, you're not going to get me. I'm not going to fall for this. And so I didn't click on it, obviously. I'm like, I'm not going to be disappointed. Because actually, the husband was watching YouTube and had just come across a video saying, like, clip of new Rick and Morty season 3 or something. And so he wanted to watch it. I'm like, no, I don't want to watch it. Because if it's an actual clip, then I don't want it to be ruined. Because there's going to be jokes, and they would have been funnier if I was just watching the whole thing, you know? And he's like, "No, I'm going to click on it." So he clicks on it. And it actually turned out to be a sort of super cut of the characters just saying the words that sing "Never Gonna Give You Up." And I'm like, "Bitch, you got rickrolled. I didn't want to click on it. It's your own." And it took him like a good couple seconds, and I'm like, this is trolling you, baby." Like, so
It was a Rick and Morty roll.
it was indeed. It was just some like fan cut. It wasn't like them and stuff, but it was funny. And so that wasn't on April Fool's. That was a few weeks earlier. So I was like, "You're not going to get me again." And they kind of got me in that they didn't get me. But later that evening, when we realized it was real, we watched the episode.
Yeah, like I saw a lot of people talking about it, like, "Oh yeah, it's totally going to be fake." And then like later in the evening, they're like, "Oh my god, it's actually real."
I know. I texted my friend. I was like, "Watch it!" It's like caps lock at like 11 o'clock at night because we finally figured it out. But that's the thing, is like Rick and Morty's one of the TV shows I follow. I find like I don't even watch that much TV anymore. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube and like the odd thing on Netflix. It's even rare for me to download a season now. Like, I just lost touch with all the shows I used to watch, you know?
Yeah, I find I tend to just rewatch things. Like right now I'm rewatching The Wire, and this will be my third or fourth time watching The Wire. And then after this I'm going to rewatch The West Wing, and it will be my third or fourth time watching The West Wing. And so I find that I don't seek out new shows. I just rewatch the same ones over and over because I know I like them. I'm the same way with books. I've talked about that in an earlier episode. I just always read the same ones because I know I like them.
Yeah. And it's hard because I have that reflex of, if someone tells me something's like amazing and it's all over the place and like everybody loves it, it's kind of like, I believe you. I don't know if I need to experience it myself, kind of thing. And one of those was sort of Westworld, and I said I just finished watching that. And I'm glad I did. Like, I did really enjoy it. But it was that thing of, I'd heard not so much of my immediate friends, but, you know, reviews online and, you know, critics I like and stuff like that saying how good it was. I'm like, I don't know. It's probably fine. Like, but I did watch it, and you should too.
Yeah.
And you should watch Rick and Morty. I can't believe you. It has a Nathan Fillion cameo.
Yeah, I was kind of like that with Game of Thrones. I didn't start watching Game of Thrones until season 3 was out, because everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's so good, it's so good, it's a must-watch," and like there was all this hype around it. I was like, is it really going to live up to all this hype? And when I watched it, I was like, it's not all that hype. It's really good. Don't get me wrong, but I still think it was a bit overhyped. Especially because you have to get like 5 episodes into the first season to actually get good. So,
and see, I am not a Game of Thrones person. I really tried. I got the first season from a friend, and I watched it, and I was just so bored. I was bored. And I get that, you know, it is a continuous story. It's picking up now. Apparently, stuff's going down now. But it's just like, you know, if it's on, like the husband watches it, but not religiously. So if he's watching it, I'll sit beside him on the couch on my laptop or something. But it's not for me. And if you're going for it, Westworld has like 10 times the boobs that Game of Thrones has. Like, just everywhere, all the nakedness, all the time. There's a little bit of dick, just a little bit to balance it out, but it's like 90% boobs, just a bit, like 2 guys. So, fairness, like,
Yeah.
don't worry, ladies. There's some eye candy in there for you too. But maybe we should talk a little more about the movie of the day then. Now that we've reviewed TV shows.
Yeah, I guess.
And see, listeners, we've learned from the previous one that when we started talking, because we usually have kind of like a little preamble talk about something related to the movie, that just turned into talking about the movie. So we're just gonna skip right on ahead and just talk about Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
I believe it is my turn for the summary.
Yep.
Gotta open Wikipedia. God knows I'll get lost. The internet wasn't working out here this far, so it was a little spotty for a second. All right. So I'm going to try my best to explain everything without sort of just giving a play-by-play of the movie. But the movie opens with you see a brain being inserted into a host body, a synthetic robot body, whatever you like to call it. And we learn that this is our main protagonist. Her name is Mira Killian in this, and she is the first person to have been successfully transplanted their sort of brain into a full body. We are currently in the near-ish future. Every time I say near future, I'm like, we're a long ways away from what's happening in this movie. I think this is the far-ish future.
Yeah.
But so in this future, everyone is able to sort of upgrade themselves with cyborg parts and that like can do superhuman things. So it's sort of like instead of getting plastic surgery and cosmetic surgery, you get cyborg implants. So people have like eyes that are x-ray vision, and they have like jacks in their brain like the Matrix that they can like download stuff and learn, and you know, all kinds of things like this. So she is the only person who's full robot and human brain. And the main company that does this in the movie is Hanker Robotics. So she was sort of built by them. And she now works for a sort of CIA type group called Section 9. And so they are investigating a sort of terrorist who's been hacking into people's brain ports and taking their memories and like killing them. So she and her group are tasked of finding out who this is. So she eventually finds this guy, and his name is Kuze, and he tells her that she's not the first robot with a brain kind of thing, that she's actually one of many, and it includes him. And he was sort of the failed experiment right before her, and they tried to kill him, and he escaped, and now he's trying to get revenge on all the people who built it, basically. And both Kuze and she goes by Major in the actual movie. They always call her that. So Major and Kuze both have had their memories wiped, and they kind of get these flashbacks of, you know, things from their old life. So they actually kind of join up, and she learns that she was actually a teenage runaway, and Hanker Robotics sort of swooped in, and she was actually friends with Kuze, and they were part of this raid, and they took all these kids that were runaways, took out their brains and put them in robots as experiments, and she was the only one that sort of worked, and Kuze sort of half worked. And now she's who they say she is. Like, all her memories are fake and all this kind of stuff. And in the end, basically, the Hanker Robotics CEO is kind of our big bad guy. He gets killed by the Section 9 boss, and there's this big battle, and she fights this big spider robot monster, and she goes on to continue to be sort of her robot self, whereas Kuze uploaded his consciousness, his brain, into kind of the cloud, and now he's kind of somewhere, ? And she's still going to be her cop sort of self.
Yeah.
But now she knows who she is.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's as good as I'm going to do. So, overall thoughts, what did you think about the movie? And you are the one who was tasked with watching the original movie, The Ghost in the Shell 1995 version, the actual anime, and I did not. We decided that I would sort of judge it on its own, and you would judge it in comparison to this old version.
Yeah, so I watched the live-action one before I had watched the animated one, and so coming out of the theater of the live-action one, I thought it was pretty good. Probably a 7.5 maybe. Mm-hmm. But then after watching the animated one, which is a lot better in my opinion. Um,
Aren't the originals always like I know there are some out there, but I would struggle to find too many examples of movies that are better than their previous, iteration.
yeah. So after watching the original one, I would give this live action one probably a 6. Still not horrible, just not as good as I thought it was when I first saw it in comparison to the original.
All right. And overall, walking out of the theater, I probably would have said about a 6.5. And, it's hard recording this. And, our first attempt was, probably 4 days after we saw it. And then now it's like 7 days after we saw the movie.
Yeah.
So even previously, I was kind of like, what happened? What happened? I can't remember. So it didn't leave a strong impression. I think it was trying to do a lot of those big themes, like what's consciousness, and like, a lot of the movies, like she's like, I'm a robot, and like, am I even human? And everyone's like, well, yeah, of course you are. And she has this sort of like big thing, but everyone around her's like, you're being dumb. And,
Yeah.
As I said, I just watched Westworld, which I'm not going to give any spoilers because I do want you to watch it, but it's not a surprise that it's about robots, and it's about robots finding out they're robots. So it's like, I watched that, which is still a little convoluted in its own way, but I feel like it made the points better than this movie did. Mm-hmm. And even things like Ex Machina, which we haven't reviewed officially, but we've talked about a lot in the past, it's the same sort of thing. It has, how do you tell when a robot is real, and can it fool a human into thinking it's real, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little different in that she is a human brain in a robot body. So she just keeps thinking that she's a robot, and kind of you forget that she's a human half the time. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it did an okay job. I probably wouldn't watch it again, but it's okay.
Yeah, see, the biggest failing with it is that it tried to follow similar plot points as the original animated one, but the plot was very different, so a lot of those points that they try and carry over just don't hit as hard. Mm-hmm. Like in the original one, just brief summary of it, follow same characters and everything like that, but in it, the plot does not focus on her finding out about her past. That is completely made up for this movie. Little asterisk beside this is, I've only seen the original animated movie. There's 2 other movies and like 2 TV series, so it could be stealing stuff from that bit too. Mm-hmm. But
just trying to like merge everything into one sort of thing.
But yeah, in the original 95 one, it follows Section 9 trying to track down this hacker that's, again, hacking into brains, but it turns out that it's not a failed brain implant into synthetic body like it is in the 2017 movie. It is a AI program written by the government that was used for espionage that became sentient and got itself into one of these synthetic bodies. Yeah. Now, in the original one, synthetic bodies are not super common, but there's at least more than one of them. So it gets into this body and claims political asylum because the government is trying to basically kill it, shut it down, so it's no longer active. And so it kind of focuses around this AI who's become sentient and is all like, how do you prove what life is? How human do you have to be human? How do you prove that you are alive? And so they kind of incorporate bits of that into the 2017 live action one, but kind of fail at it as well, because that's not the main focus of it.
Yeah, and it seems like, there's only so many stories that people tell with robots, and it tends to be, is the robot alive? Is the main point of it. And like I said, I feel like if that was the main theme of the original, they just completely disregarded that. I mean, I feel like there's enough movies out there about like people losing their minds and not knowing who they are, being brainwashed. I mean, like, just, I don't know, watch Memento or something. But like, I feel like why would you change something so fundamental about it? And like I said earlier, it's find a movie where the source book or whatever is better, like the movie's better, and you're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna have a bad time. But I think if they try to keep the spirit of the original work, you tend to do better. I mean, for example, like think of the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. We both love that show.
Yeah.
And we both loathe that movie.
I think anybody who has any passing interest in that show and has seen any bit of the movie is just like, what the hell is this?
And when I was watching it, the movie, they hit all the main plot points of it. Like, and I get that you have to turn a season of a TV show, so 20 episodes or whatever, like 5 hours of television, whatever it is, into a 1 hour movie. You're going to cut stuff. You have to cut a lot of stuff. But at the core, they got the story, but not the themes and like the emotions of it. Like that show is pretty lighthearted for most of it. And there was no humor, no love, no anything in that movie. And I think that's the problem. And changing people's pronunciations of their name for no reason. Like, oh, Aang, that sounds too Asian. I'm just going to call him Ong. You. You, M. Night Shyamalan, I hate you. But so it's like, why would you adapt something and change the fundamental piece of it? Because it's not like that movie where the AI becomes sentient and takes over a body. It's not like that couldn't exist. I mean, we have enough robot movies. I think people would be on board. So I don't know why they would do that.
See, and I think that the original is a lot easier to follow because it all makes sense why things are happening the way they are. Because in the remake, like you even said before, like, oh, how are they able to hack brains? What the hell is going on with this? And so in like the original one, this AI was designed specifically to be able to hack into like foreign officials' brains because it was built by the government for that purpose. Whereas in the live action one, is just some guy that for whatever reason knows how to do this.
Yeah, and that was part of the thing of, this is going around and people are hacking people's brains in this. And maybe it's not a widespread pandemic. Maybe Kuze is the first person to ever like hack somebody's brain. But it's like, I feel like that's a big risk. I mean, they're going on about how you can't have the same password for all your websites because someone's going to hack your life. Like, you are literally putting a port into your brain that someone can steal your identity, your literal identity, not just like your bank account. Like that seems like too much of a risk to me. I wouldn't get the brain implants. Like, you might go all Matrix and learn karate or whatever, but I don't think it's worth that for sure. The cyborg eyes or whatever, I can kind of get behind. Like that would be cool, except like Bato's look stupid. They look dumb. There's like little black circles on his face. Like
they definitely look better in the anime one.
Yeah. And so it's like, that just seems foolish to me to begin with. And everyone just seems so vulnerable. Like, he's just, like, Kuze is just getting into everywhere. Like, they have this secure Hangar Robotics, like, corporate tower, like, some scientist working on the, like, 100th floor, and he just strolls in and kills her. Like, did he hack everybody to get up there? He just, like, Jedi mind tricks everybody? Like, and,
yeah.
There's a scene in it where there's these two garbage truck drivers, and Kuze's trying to kill the scientist lady, and she kind of is on her way. She's driving in a car, and he hacks these garbage truck drivers to like ram into her car and then like gun her down. And like, where did they get the guns from? Like, did they have the guns? Like, garbage collecting is really, really like dangerous. They need semi-automatic rifles. In this world where everyone's a cyborg, they can't build like actual autonomous robots to collect the garbage. But, whatever. Okay, so he can just remotely hack anybody he wants. At least the other ones, like the first scene where sort of a robot goes rogue and attacks the robotics guy, she had to physically be there. She had to physically hold him and hack him. But Kuze can just like point a finger and be like, you. like mind control. I don't understand.
Yeah, see, and again, those garbage guys are a carryover from the original one, and what it is that the AI is basically helping people out by telling them how to hack things so that it's covering his own hacking. So if they use a similar thing that he does in like section A of the city, but he's in section C of the city doing something, the police might go to section A and look for the garbage guy. And so like in this case, the garbage guy was concerned that his wife was cheating on him, and so he was spying into her whatever or whatnot. But it turns out that he got his brain hacked and he doesn't have a wife. So
Yeah, and they kind of kept that in this one.
Mhm.
So one of the garbage guys gets killed by the police, and then the other one gets taken in for questioning. And so they're questioning him, and he's like, "Oh, I need to go see my kid or something. I need to take my kid something." And they're like, "You don't have any kids." So he still has that ability of implanting a completely false memory.
Mhm.
And then my thing is like, maybe the point is like you turn into the thing you hate, but like that's what the robotics people did to you, and that's why you're killing them, and you just did it to that guy. Like,
Yeah.
it just seems weird.
But yeah, that like garbage truck scene and a couple other ones are basically taken straight from the movie. So you know that one scene when they're chasing the garbage truck guy and they go to like that shallow pond thing and have like the fist fight. That's in there, except it's not with one of the garbage guys; it's with someone else. The giant spider robot thing. When she's running along like the top bit of the atrium and hiding behind the posts, or columns rather, that bit's in there, although the setting's a little different. And then her like falling backwards off the building are there. And those are like the only three things taken directly from there and moved into the other one.
Like I said, it just seems like they want to hit those set pieces. Like they want to, that her falling off the building is probably like an iconic shot of the series.
Yeah.
So they wanted to put it in there, but then like they needed to contrive a way to fit that in, especially if they've changed the entire story. So, and one of the controversies with this whole movie, and probably why we even bothered to see it, was the casting. So we talked previously in our Doctor Strange episode about whitewashing and how Doctor Strange cast Tilda Swinton in a traditionally male Tibetan character. And in this one, the large focus of the movie's publicity has been on Scarlett Johansson being cast as Major. Because obviously in the anime, and most animes, they're sort of meant to be Japanese-ish. And I say ish because, like, if you watch, and I probably grew up with, like, cartoon kind of kid versions, but, like, if you watch Sailor Moon, they don't look Japanese, and they don't look like they're trying to be Japanese. So, I mean, I'll say Japanese-ish.
Yeah.
So this whole world seems to be set in Japan. Like, there's Japanese, letters everywhere, and all the supporting cast appears to be of Asian descent, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But all sort of the main focus characters are white. And, like, Scarlett Johansson, Bato was played by some guy from Game of Thrones or something, I think. And, like, the couple, like, Hanker Robotics people, anyone who matters at Hanker Robotics is white, and everybody else, like, is Japanese or, Asian. So there was this big uproar about, Scarlett Johansson playing an Asian character. And what do you think about that? Because Adam has controversial opinions about this.
See, I'm kind of...
Adam's opinion, I don't give a shit.
All right. Well, in the original one, the country they're in is not Japan. It's obviously based on Japan, but it's not actually Japan. And it's a lot more multinational than the one in the live action is. So, like, every single sign has both the Japanese characters as well as English on it. There's a lot more Caucasian-looking people in the background scenes and stuff like that. And even some of, like, the main crew of Section 9 look more Caucasian than they do in the live-action one. And so, I can see why they would be able to cast a non-Asian person as Major, because in the anime, she's not stylized the same as other definitely Asian characters. Like, she does have some Asian characteristics, but she's not drawn the same as other ones would be, and so it's conceivable that in the anime one she could be mixed race or something. But then moving to the live action one, she is an artificial body that was made to have a backstory of someone of Caucasian descent. So in the movie, she's told that her name's Mira Killian, which definitely doesn't sound Asian to me, so it would be weird to have her backstory be Mira Killian, but her look Asian. And so I could see why they manufactured her body to look that way to fit the backstory they were giving her.
So here's my counterpoint. So in the original show, and we find out later in the movie, her real name is Motoko, which is super Asian, Japanese, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you see Scarlett Johansson go to her mom's house, and her mom is like this super old Asian lady, and find out her name is Motoko, and when she's talking to Kuze after she finds out what her real name is, and she's like, I'm Motoko, and he's like, oh yeah, you are, and like all this stuff. And it just looks ridiculous, her saying that. Like, it looks so disjointed of like her saying this super Asian name and looking super, super white. And I mean, I understand that the body is synthetic, like it was manufactured, so you would make a fake body that you're putting someone's brain in look like a model or look like Scarlett Johansson or something, like, but I almost feel like the movie like, since the original setting of this is a sort of half Japanese, half, you know, it seems like French, like bateau is like boat in French, and like one of the doctors is Dr. Ule, like, it's, let's just say half Japanese and half French. Somehow the French become a super world power and take over or something, I don't know. But, you know, I feel like they might have a duty to like try to mix it, like you said, like have her look mixed race instead of like super model white. And it implies that if you're making fake bodies, you make the best looking one you can, and so the default you should make is a white person. Like, it goes back to like white is the accepted default of humanity, which it shouldn't be, you know? And it's, if they had changed her real name to something less obviously Japanese, I think it would be less disjointed. And I mean, maybe it comes from her also changing the story if she has to find out she's actually a 19-year-old Japanese girl, but it just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And even her sort of design, like when I first saw the trailers and whatever for it, it's her fighting the first fight scene in the movie, and I'm like, is she naked? Like, she's fully like beige. She is naked in this, and it's like the robot body. I didn't know anything about it, and so it just is so distracting sometimes because the whole sort of color palette of the movie is very dark and it's futuristic, so it's like dark and neon and all that kind of stuff. And then you have this like pure white, like not pure white, but like super light pink person moving through it, and it's just so weird to me. So I find it a little disjointed, and like, it's not like they couldn't have found someone of like mixed race, or like look at Lucy Liu. She's half American and half Chinese, I think. And so, you know, someone like her, she has total Asian look, but she has lightish skin. Like, you couldn't find someone like Lucy Liu. Was she busy? Like,
yeah.
So, other than that, I thought the casting was okay. I mean, I didn't really know anybody except Scarlett Johansson. Like, I was expecting Kuze to maybe be, when they revealed who he was, like someone I knew, like an actor I knew. I don't know who that is. He just looks like some like weird, like hipster teenager guy that I could like find at the mall. He just like, he didn't look like he was even a match for Scarlett Johansson, and he's all like fallen apart, like limping, like Ultron when he first gets built in like the Avengers and stuff. And I'm like, just punch him. Like, he's just like, before she found out who he was and stuff, and her mission was to destroy him, he looked very destroyable.
Yeah.
And another sort of controversy that I only discovered after we saw the movie and I was sort of looking stuff up. There's the accusation of the whitewashing, but then there's also apparently queer baiting. So in the original, I don't think it's the 95 movie, but I think one of the other versions of it, is Motoko's basically a lesbian. She has like female relationships. And there's, I guess, an interview with the author saying that she didn't want to draw naked guys, so she just drew naked girls. So that's how she became a lesbian. And in this movie, she picks up a prostitute, a lady prostitute, as part of her like I'm a robot identity crisis. And she gets this prostitute, and she just touches her face and like feels her skin, and like asks her what it's like to feel things and stuff like that. And then they kind of lean in, and it looks like they might kiss, and then they cut or something. And I'm like, is she gay? Like, that's pretty cool. Like, maybe people forget about the whole "you're not Asian" thing if they make her gay. And it never came up again. It was never mentioned. Nothing. And so now they've kind of had this accusation of it's queer baiting, because it's like leading you on about, oh, she might be gay. This is going to be interesting. Now we're getting somewhere. And not even just like, oh, sweet sex, kind of like, oh. But like, just like, oh, this is an interesting, like, choice that they're keeping with the character. And then it goes absolutely nowhere, and it was just like for a tantalizing scene kind of thing. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, like you said, it might not be in the original, like, 95 one, but in that one, I wouldn't see why she would want to have sexual relations with anybody, because she's got nothing going on downstairs. So, yeah, I get that she's still a human brain in there, and she'll have, like, human thoughts and feelings, but it's not like she could get anything from a relationship other than the emotional side. She couldn't get any physical stimulation from it.
Not like, you can give sexual relationship. She could do stuff to other people, and then that might make her feel good, but not in the exact way of, yes, she cannot have like actual intercourse or whatever, but you can still do things with partners, Adam.
I know, I'm just saying that she would not be able to receive, only give.
Yeah, I'm just saying she doesn't necessarily need that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the only thing after when I thought about it of, oh, I thought she was going to have a relationship with a girl. She doesn't really have a romantic relationship with anybody, which is kind of interesting, because usually all these big blockbuster Hollywood movies, someone falls in love with somebody. And I mean, she has her partner Bato, who's like her, right-hand man. I'm like, all right, if she's going to be anybody, it's going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And it was nobody. So that's kind of interesting in that it's something that they didn't feel like they had to cram a romantic subplot into.
Finally, a movie when they don't do that.
I know, right? Now I finally have an example of like when the guy and the girl don't fall in love. Here we go.
Well, another one was Rogue One. They didn't really fall in love.
And Sicario, she didn't fall in love with anybody. She tried to have sex with that dude, then he tried to kill her. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
That old chestnut. So, actually, we've seen quite a few. I guess I have a few examples of that now. But, yeah. I mean, kudos to that, I guess. And I guess if they were going to kind of have her pick up a female prostitute and then not get into a relationship with a dude later, like, that's all right, I guess. Like, that's kind of cool. I mean, I guess they kept that in because she was with women in the anime and stuff, but she could have as easily picked up a dude prostitute, so I guess yay for keeping the girl. I don't know if that's a yay or an A.
Or just not picked up any prostitute. That's also an option.
I know, you could have cut that and we wouldn't have given a shit. But oh goodness. And I mean, direction wise, I didn't really notice anything amazing. I didn't really notice anything that I wish wouldn't have happened. The director of this is Rupert Sanders, and I was like, that name kind of rings a bell. So I looked it up, and this is only his second directing credit. He did that movie Snow White and the Huntsman with Charlize Theron and Kristen Stewart, and there was this whole thing about how he cheated on his wife, Kristen Stewart, and then he got divorced and all that stuff, and like that movie ruined both of their relationships and everything, and so you give the movie to that guy. That sounds good.
One thing that I do like better in the live action one than I do in the original one is the city design. Like in this one, it's got all those like giant like holographic like billboards and all this stuff, whereas in the original one, it's just like a metropolitan city essentially. Like there's nothing fanciful about the setting, really.
I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, if we actually get giant hologram things, I cannot live with that. How did these people live with that?
Oh yeah, that would be awful.
I would go berserkers. Like, that would be crazy. It'd be hard enough, like, living in downtown Tokyo or, like, Times Square or something where you have those giant billboards in your face all the time. But, like, to be 3D holograms, like, talking to you, oh God, like, that'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So, some things humans shouldn't build. Please don't build giant swimming hologram fish that like are all over the place.
Yeah. So now that they've kind of started, like they kind of started with like comic book movies, and then they went to this type of movie, and now they're kind of starting to adapt animes and stuff. Do you think this trend will continue?
I mean, I think there's a big enough market for it. I mean, I don't know if this is just me thinking, my generation's the best, but I feel like mine was really when anime started coming to North America. Like, I was a kid and I remember Sailor Moon coming out, and I remember the first season of that. And granted, I haven't seen too many like adult anime, which is more likely of what they would make.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there is enough of an audience because, like, think about how popular Sailor Moon was, and Pokemon, and they did a Dragon Ball Z movie, which
That's another one we don't mention.
whitewashing again. Let's just keep talking about it. But I remember really liking those, and I think if you go to anyone who's sort of my generation or a little bit younger like you, we can remember those cartoons and from our childhood, and even more adult ones now. Because you watch some like adult ones, right?
Yeah. I've definitely watched more anime than you. I wouldn't say like I've watched like a ton. Like I've watched some on Netflix and that sort of thing. My favorite one would probably be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I wouldn't say that's an adult one. It's definitely got more adult themes in it, but it's still enjoyable by a younger audience. It just deals with genocide and stuff, but eh.
I was gonna say, so funny story. I've watched Brotherhood. My one ex-boyfriend was super into it, so he's like, "You have to watch this," and I never finished it. So we were watching it, and then we broke up, so I stopped watching it. And then a little while later, I'm like, you know what, that was pretty good. Maybe I'll just watch it to finish it. But it had been a couple years, so I wanted to start from the beginning. So I started again and then stopped at like the same spot and was like, man, I got bored. Like, stopped watching it. So I've never seen it all the way through. But I can say it seems pretty adult when stuff gets going to me. Like, those demon people like seem pretty adult. But or it was funny because my friend was watching at the time just Full Metal Alchemist, like the first anime series, and then Brotherhood's like the second one.
Yeah.
So they were watching the first one, I was watching the second one, and she came out to me, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe whoever died. I'm like, what? He's alive, you maniac. Like, this other person died. She's like, what? And like we were trying to have a conversation about it, and then we realized we were watching two different things.
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, because Brotherhood is more true to the actual anime.
Yeah.
Not the anime, the manga. That's the one. It's more true to it, whereas like just the original anime one has a lot more creative license to it. So
yeah. And so, I mean, like I said, I don't know if I would pick a favorite because I don't like any sort of intellectually as an adult. I like them because I'm nostalgic and I watched them as a kid. Oh God, you remember Digimon? That was my jam.
Yeah.
That was my jam. And so it's like all those ones. I wouldn't really want to go see a Digimon movie that's live action and made today, like, or Pokemon for that matter. Actually, speaking of like the queer baiting in this one, I used to really like Cardcaptor Sakura, and I rewatched it a little while ago with subs instead of dubs, so the Japanese like words were still there because anytime anything came to North America, they edited the crap out of it.
Oh yeah.
And so in Cardcaptors, everybody's gay for everybody. Like, the best friend loves her, the like brother loves the guy, like everyone is just gay in this. And Sailor Moon too. Two of the Sailor Scouts were supposed to be lesbian lovers in Japan, and then they came here and they made them like cousins or something. And they tried to make the one sort of girl with the short hair, the more air quotes masculine looking one, they tried to like play her off as a guy. They gave her like an androgynous, sorry, like a unisex kind of name,
Hmm.
and they try to be like, oh, like that's why they're holding hands because she's actually like it's a boy, and everyone with a braid is like that's a girl, like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing too is like all these anime, series that came over, they edited them so much that even if I said I liked that, having not seen one where the original text was still there,
Hmm.
like, could I even say I liked it because it is so different, and we have to protect the precious sensibility of the North American children, and they can't handle the gay in 1995 when this was made. Like, it just seems silly.
Yeah. One like thing that everybody's heard of is obviously Studio Ghibli that does like
Yeah.
Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle. And there's a story that Disney got the distribution rights for North America for Princess Mononoke, and so Miyazaki, who's the writer, director, all of that for Studio Ghibli, actually sent like a proper Japanese sword to like the head of whatever department was doing the release for it, that was also doing like the English dub for it, that just had a note that said no cuts. So like,
I love that guy. He's now my favorite person.
yeah.
And that's the thing. I don't know how old I was when I saw that movie, but it scared the bejesus out of me. It was like a little spirit thing. Scary. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any. What's that one? I think it's something else that was by the same studio. I can't remember, but I think I've only seen two things. I haven't seen like the Totoro or whatever that is. I haven't.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Whatever. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's the thing that everybody loves too. So
Yeah. We've seen Kiki's Delivery Service. I know you've seen
that was the other one I was thinking of. I'm like, is that them? I think it's them, but I didn't want to say it. It sounds stupid if it wasn't.
Yeah. So like the ones that I've seen from Studio Ghibli are Kiki's Delivery Service. I've seen Princess Mononoke. I've seen Spirited Away. Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah, those are the ones I've seen. Like, I've got, like, all of them downloaded. I haven't watched them yet. I've got such a huge backlog of things that I need to watch.
Yeah, so that's the thing, guys. I hope if they do start doing more anime translations to either live action or, bring series over from Japan and kind of Americanize them, I hope they keep at least the original intent and, like, at least watching sort of a kid's one like Sailor Moon or Cardcaptors, you don't lose the main lesson or the main what's happening by making the characters less gay. But, I would think as an artist, like, you made that thing and then they're just like changing everything. Like, if I were the writer of Ghost in the Shell, if I didn't get approval on that script, I would be like appalled how much they changed it then from what even your description was.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I don't think it was just a direct taking the thing, moving it to live action. I think it was more of a, we want something set in the universe, but have its own distinct story to it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where they failed. If they had just said, we'll make the first movie, but make it live action, it would have been better.
And I get that even if you take stuff too literally of a translation, then that's like a criticism. I heard that, one of the critiques of Watchmen, like Zack Snyder's Watchmen when it came out, was, except for the kind of end, he basically did a shot-for-shot remake. Like, I actually read the book after, well, the comic, whatever.
Yeah.
I read it after I watched the movie, and I'm like, it's pretty much shot-for-shot. Like, he takes a little bit out of Rorschach's story, a lot of kind of the background stuff, but basically it's the exact same. So and they're like, oh, he just didn't even do anything creative with it. So it's like, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. But I don't know if it's probably more the like controversy of it, but I looked at the sort of box office so far as about 73 million worldwide, and its budget was 110 excluding marketing. So it hasn't made its money back yet, and it might. I don't know if that would be enough of a motivation to change the casting or to sort of look about how they're adapting things.
I don't think it's so much the casting or even the controversy. It's just that it's a mediocre movie, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It's decent, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I wouldn't tell anybody to not see it either. But I wouldn't say, oh, hey, go see this movie. It's good. If they're like, oh, should I see this movie? I'm like, Maybe, I don't know.
And the point of like, who is it for? Is it for the original people who liked Ghost in the Shell, the anime? Because you've changed everything.
Hmm.
Or is it for general people who don't know the story and just like, oh, I just want to go see people punch each other? And it's just kind of like, it's been done better. So it's, if you're trying to make it for everybody, you also try to kind of make it for nobody.
Yeah.
So either you make it for the fans or you make it for a general audience, and it kind of failed on both fronts. Like,
Yeah, it really did. I think I best described it when I was telling you about the Book Thief movie one time.
we're getting into that again. I think we all know how Adam feels about the Book Thief.
Is that it's just disappointingly average. Like, there's nothing that stands out from it, but there's nothing bad enough about it that you'd say, don't see it. It's just one of those that, yeah, I'm not angry that I paid money to see it, or that you paid money to see it, but I wouldn't then tell somebody to go see it, or ever watch it ever again.
Glowing review, never watch it again. But yeah, so I don't know, could have been better. It has same themes done better in previous movies. So really that's why it kind of got a 6.5 for me in the first place, even before kind of learning about all the stuff that they changed and apparently made worse. So here's hoping the next adaptation of something is a little better. I know one coming up that I'm sure we'll review when it comes out in about a month or so is Wonder Woman. I don't know whether to have any expectations for that.
See, I haven't even seen, like, Batman versus Superman, where Wonder Woman is first introduced to it, so...
You don't even need it. She just, like, stands around for a while, and then, like, in the fight scene, she just does, like f***ing Playboy poses as her moves, and it's just bullshit. Like, she gets thrown against a rock, and, like, picture a porn magazine, but with clothes on, and that's what she looks like. And it's just, thanks, Zack Snyder. Did I need that? Like,
yeah.
I disparage, like, the boobs in Westworld and stuff, too. I even, like, tweeted Westworld. I'm like, I don't think you have enough boobs in this. Like, this is HBO, guys. Like, sarcastically, because there's boobs all over the place. But, like, I guess you're making a movie that's tailored to, like, boys. But it's like, just, does it need to be that obvious that the only female character in it is just splayed across a rock, sexualized? Like, do you need that? She's supposed to be like this iconic, like, feminist character, and you're just turning into a pinup like everybody wants. Like, ugh. So it's a female director, so I'm hoping it's a little better, but we will see. We will see. Judgment shall be reserved till after.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all I have to say about Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, me too. I can't really think of anything else to rag on it for.
I think it's been eviscerated enough for today anyway.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with doing this, is that it's so easy to pick out everything that's wrong with a movie, but it's really difficult to say what's good about a movie. Like, you can only say, oh yeah, that movie, it's good, go see it, so many times, whereas with every little thing that's wrong, you're like, focus fire on it for like 5 minutes, like, oh my god, they pronounced a name wrong, how dare they? And you go on for like 5 minutes about it, and then you move on to the next little thing that's wrong.
And even sitting in the movie, they're like, oh, I would have done that. Oh, I can't believe you said that. Oh, that's so stupid. And, like, I'm just critiquing it. Like, it's only negative. I'm not like, wow, that shot was great or anything. I feel like I'm turning into that CinemaSins guy, from, like, YouTube.
Yeah.
And he's a nitpicker, like, so much. And I'm sorry, guy, you need to, like, drop the fact that there's logos at the beginning of movies. You can't just send them for putting up 30 seconds of logos every single time you review a movie. They all have logos. You can just forget about it. Like,
the best movie that deals with that is Lego Batman.
Yeah. All the best movies have, like, starts out black. Like,
all the good movies start with a black screen. Warner Brothers, they do something. I don't know what that company is, but I guess they're important.
Now, if every movie was sarcastic, then it would be a happier place in the world.
Yeah. All right, so that has been episode 11 of the And Whatnot podcasts. We want to thank you guys for listening yet again, and we hope to see you in the next episode.
And if you have any comments or critiques or would like to vent, then you can tweet us at @_and_whatnot. And we also have our email of andwhatnotpodcasting@gmail.com.
Yep. All right. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.